Hello world and welcome back to Code or Not to Code. I'm Miliva. I'm really happy to be here today. There are two things you need to know about me. First thing is I'm a coding noob. And the second thing is I love advent calendars. And in this project, we're kind of combining the two aspects and build an AdventQRlendar. And hopefully I'll have learned a thing or two about coding in the process. I'm glad you could join us today. For those of you who are not familiar with advent calendars and the concept of advent calendars, they're usually filled with chocolate. And you open a door each day leading up to Christmas and enjoy your chocolate. And in wintertime, I always struggle to get out of bed because it's so dark and cold in the morning. But if you have a chocolate waiting for you, that gets a lot easier. However, with our AdventQRlendar, you will have QR codes waiting for you, and they'll lead you to funny memes, Christmas songs, cat videos, whatever floats your boat, really. And helping me build this beautiful QRlendar is Stefan. Hi, Stefan. How are you?
Hello, Eva. I'm doing fine. Next session, I think we're now on session number 4.
Are we? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's
Time
really fun
flies.
to build this together with you. And now I'm wondering, could those QR codes link to chocolate? Because now I want chocolate.
Ooh, could they? Yeah, maybe they can, definitely to links where you can sort of order the chocolate, or maybe you can have links to restaurants that serve really nice hot chocolate, or really nice chocolates. We're streaming from Vienna, so we have quite a lot of nice coffee shops with hot chocolates and chocolate cakes and sweets to enjoy. So that would definitely be an option as well.
Yeah, because I'm now really craving for chocolate.
I literally had a chocolate, 1 minute before we started. I ran out to the kitchen and got a chocolate as well. It's just the best way to start the morning.
Smart move.
Bridget Jones, if anyone's familiar. I think she has chocolate for breakfast as well. Just like myself. Okay, so where did we get to last time? What did we...
Yes. I'm looking at the chat right now. Your salty devil is viewing again. Hello, thanks for joining.
Oh, hello.
So last time, apart from the technical issues, we did create ourselves on the AdventQRlendar page a second table, which we want to replace now with the QR codes. So we should have here now, instead of the 16, some QR codes. And where the first one will be used for the front page kind of thing that we then cut out to enable the doors, which then lead on the back page, where the first one will be not printed, but glued onto to reveal the QR codes. And in the second page, the QR codes page, where I think 2 sessions ago, we created this collection of texts to add, which could lead to URLs, now are actually working. So if I enter something here, we will get this QR code for this text displayed. And the issue is, if we navigate between these pages, we will lose the state. So what we see, the QR codes are gone again. So if I enter them again, hello world, and navigate to the other page and back to the QR codes page, QR codes are gone. So we need to persist the state there. And also, if we navigate in the advent calendar, we see the top, we always have 24 fields. But if we go to, we see on the top left, the first element is 21. And if we go there again, it's now 11. And if we go again, it's 20. So we randomize every time. We should do this once. Perhaps we enable a button somewhere which says shuffle, perhaps, reorder. And yeah, and then link those numbers. So if we happen to enter in the 14th field 14, now going back to the advent calendar, in the 14th field down there, the same QR code should be displayed.
Cool. How do we get to that? What do we have to do for that?
Perhaps let's have a look at the page. I'd like to start with the QR codes page. let's have a look. So we have our QR codes page here, which is, oops, zoom in. We have here, we see the page ends with the path QR codes. This is exactly the path that we have here. This is how the framework knows, okay, if we navigate to QR codes, we will load this page. We have our title here, and then we create 24 QR code items. Now this is a component, and if we go to that component, which is again a Razor file with a bit of a code behind, we have here the Razor, we have some code behind, C# code, and also a JavaScript file. We used the JavaScript we did this last time in order to display, in order to render the, no, not to display, but we used the QR coder package in order to create the QR code, and then we use the JavaScript in order to push it to the HTML for the browser then to render. And what we now, if we go to the code behind, got to do here, we inject several services. We do inject this JavaScript runtime so that we can execute this JavaScript. We inject our QR code service, which we use to create the QR code. If we have a look at it, this is what mentioned. We are using the QR coder library to generate the QR code. Later on, we currently allow any string. Later on, we want to do a validation that it's an actual URL. And we have we also have some lifetime events. In our case, the on-after render async, and which also passes a boolean, the first render. So on-after render async is called every time after the page has been re-rendered, which may happen multiple times even without navigation.
Okay.
But on the first render, we want to initialize and link up the JavaScript. And there is also there is more lifetime events. If we jump to the documentation, we see here a list of the lifetime of a Blazor page. So there is the first render, and we also call on initialized in this first render phase. And every time a parameter is set, there is also an event for that. And I'd say the one solution could be is that we create ourselves a collection, potentially an array of 24 items that we put ourselves in our service, because we need to share the state between those two pages.
Yeah.
We could put them into a service via dependency injection, and then so we register this once, and then we solve it in both pages, but make sure that it's always the same instance. So this is how we could preserve state.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I guess then let's create the service. Before we started, we briefly discussed the name.
Yeah.
What was it again?
I can't. Well, so wait. So we had
QRlendar service, I believe. Is it QRlendar or calendar? It's calendar.
Dar. Yes.
Service. And this service is just a class. I like to seal it, where the sealed keyword prevents other types to derive from this type. So this should be as standalone as it gets. And we need our collection here. So I will make a private read-only array of some items. We could start with an int array. Perhaps let's start small. Let's move. If we jump to the QR codes page that we see on the right-hand side, perhaps let's move like this 24. Perhaps let's move that into that service. How are those 24 items called? Are these doors?
They are doors, yes. So they're corresponding to, I guess, I guess we have like, because we have two grids, and one of them is I think we said QR door, and the other is like the front page door. So because we obviously stick the two together, and then we cut out the doors one by one. So I guess they're doors, yeah. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, so perhaps we make ourselves, no, let's create the type later. For now, let's start with integers.
Yep.
Let's create ourselves
That was I knew this one. I finally learned the shortcut for
the shortcut
constructors.
to
And
create a constructor,
before,
yeah.
I typed them all out every single time, and obviously I got it wrong a lot, and I had typos, and it was terrible. And I finally learned this, and now I know this as well. So this is how you create a constructor really, really quickly. Not really quickly, but it's like the shortcut for it.
I'm
Like
glad you
to
highlight this, because I'm like doing this for a couple of years. I haven't written a constructor manual in years. I wouldn't know how to do it.
Don't do it. It's awful.
And yeah, so this is a code snippet that ships to Visual Studio, and I think in other IDEs such as Rider, you can do the very same thing. And it says when I hit tab twice, then it inserts this snippet, and the snippet basically is a public method which without any return type. This is what makes a constructor, which has the same name than the type it's contained in. And let's initialize this door arrays. So we create a new array of 24 items. Oops, that's of course invalid. We need an int array of 24 items. We could also do it inline, actually, perhaps. So what you see here is very much the same code as if we would initialize it up here. There is a bit of a difference in the order. I think field initializers are called before the constructor. Whoa. But I'm not entirely sure anymore. But perhaps this is a bit of a shorthand syntax. And now we need to expose them somehow. In order to make this in the, where are we? In the QR codes, to make this iterable. Well, we could expose this 24 as a member. So we could have a property, or change it to a static property, or should it be static? No, perhaps not. Let's make this all an instance of this. The count of doors, number of doors, and set this to 24. What we do here, this is a read-only property. No, we can't refer to the read, can we? No, we can't, because I guess, okay, I think now we actually are depending on the order. But I believe we could do it now in the constructor. Yeah, because I guess this shows now, so the compiler allows this. This shows that this one is initialized before the constructor.
Okay.
Oops. Okay. And now we need to inject this service. Perhaps I'll close the page to give us a full screen experience here. And now we need to inject this service into our QR codes page. If we go to the Solution Explorer, to the QR codes, to the code band of the QR codes, we don't have anything yet. We see this is a partial class. We learned this last time, or session before as well.
Session before, yeah.
How this is basically enabling ASP.NET Core and Blazor to, well, it enables the user to extend whatever Blazor is creating. And we can make ourselves a property here. Also, perhaps another shortcut. I haven't written a property in ages, so what I enter is prop. There's different versions of properties, but just prop is a so-called an auto property. An automatically implemented property where the getter and the setter are auto-implemented. It's a shorthand syntax. And if I hit enter prop and tab twice, I get this. I could also do a full property. So if I do prop full, I get this. And basically, this auto property and the full property, they are semantically equivalent. So basically what the auto property is doing, what we see on the bottom, implementing this automatically. So the compiler, it's a shorthand, it's syntactic sugar for the compiler.
And what's the proper?
Excuse me?
Proper was also...
There's also prop A.
Yeah, it just sounds like...
in ages. Let's find out.
Proper.
That's
like
an attached
proper property.
Dependency property. All right. I think you need this for WPF.
Okay.
But since we're doing Blazor here, this doesn't do us any good. We are lacking the namespaces here because this is a different kind of project.
Fair enough. Stick with our property.
And let's inject. So let's inject the QRlendar service. Nice. And we do this by annotating this with an attribute. So on a member, but also on a type, we can, if we use the brackets, can annotate, in this case, the property with an attribute. And there is the inject attribute. We see this is in the Microsoft ASP.NET Core Components namespace, where this components namespace, we are building components here. The Blazor is component based, so we can use the inject keyword here. And now the framework automatically sets this QRlendar service for us. I'll call it QRlendar. And now we want to use this 24. If we go to the code, I'll put this side by side. So at the top we have the code behind, at the bottom we have the actual razor. We want to replace this 24 with the number of the service. So we should now be able to, rather than saying 24 here, use the razor syntax, say at QRlendar in order to refer to this property, and say dot IntelliSense helps us with auto-completion, the number of doors that we have on this service. If I would run this, however, now, let's give it a try, we would get an error.
Oof.
So if I go to I enable the DevTools, and I go to the QR codes page, we get an error. And it says something of, let me use a different color, orange, no, purple, pink. There is no registered service for a type. So we try to resolve a service which hasn't been registered yet. And so we need to register it, and per default we do this in our main program file, where we set up all the basic workflows. And we have, let me bring this full screen. We have two services actually. So this HTTP client, this is actually used from the demo, from the template that we derived from. We actually don't need this. Let me comment this out. And we already registered our QR code service that we use to create the QR code as a singleton. And I'm now inclined to duplicate this line with Control D, and instead of registering the QR code service, additionally register the QRlendar service.
Nice.
And let's see what happens if we run this now. We show QR codes. We can now get again the same list from 1 to 24.
Nice.
So what's next?
So we've just like moved the 24, haven't we, into service? Now, do we still have to make it so that it doesn't change whenever we leave the page.
Ah,
Is
yeah,
that
that's right.
anything?
That's right. So we need to persist, for example, the URL. I will
Yeah.
now be using as a demo URL. I'll be using this URL to a meetup. Okay, a bit
Ah.
of a drop-in advertisement. That's the .NET Community Austria is a .NET event in a meetup user group in Vienna that I co-organize, and we are on November the 15th at Rubicon, where we talk about, or our speaker talks about improving supply chain security with code signing. But if you're not in Vienna or close to Vienna on the 15th of November, we also live stream to Twitch and YouTube. I'll be sharing the link in the chat. And I will use that now as a demo to create QR codes.
But that would also be really cool if you have 24 like links to live streams or meetups or I don't know masterclasses for your QRlendar. That would also be
Ooh.
very, very good actually.
Well, perhaps there is something coming up in December that we may be announcing a little bit later at the next live stream, won't we? well connected. So we need to store not only the integer, but also at least the URL. We could also store the QR code, but perhaps for now, let's recreate it every time. What we need is the URL, because we can create the QR code from that. Well, it could also go the other way around, but that seems
More
odd.
difficult. Yeah. Fair enough.
So we need additionally to the URL, to the integer, we also need the URL. I'll be closing the application, going to full screen. So just one array of integers won't cut it. We need actually an integer and a string. We could have two different arrays with the same size, but let's build a separate class. So I'll be making a class and call this QDoor. Let's call it door. I'm also sealing it because I like to seal types per default, only if I really intend them to be extended and derived. And let's put the integer in there. So again, I will use prop to create an integer, which will be the number. And I'll create another property, which is now of type string, which will be the URL. And I have an H. H resolved. And how do we set these? Let's create a constructor. Well, they're actually this is actually mutable, so we should be able to change the URL, but not the number. The number won't really change. So let's create a constructor where we pass in the number. So I'm saying int number, and then so this will be the parameter to the constructor, and then setting number, the property number, to the parameter number that we pass in. So I can now remove this set property, which means it's no longer settable. It's now in read-only property. It can only be set during constructor time. But the URL still has the set property, so it cannot only be read, it can also be written too. So we can now change, instead of the int array, we now have our door array of 24 items. And now we need to set these. Okay, let's go to the component, to the QR code item. No, actually, let's first jump to the page, to the QR codes page, where we create new QR code items. If we have a look at the component, so the QR code item is a component that we have here. I'll put this down. We already have a parameter here, the door number. So we are injecting the door number here already. But now we want to also inject the URL. So we could make this URL also a parameter, again, by annotating this with the parameter attribute.
So you
And we
literally
can
have
also,
to write
excuse me?
it on top of every single parameter you want to make a parameter. So it only takes the
Yeah.
first one. So you can't like have parameters all or something, and then it takes everything that's underneath.
Not that I know of. Perhaps there is something coming with the .NET 7, which is released soon.
Okay.
Maybe there is something that we could put on the entire type to make all properties, to annotate all properties automatically. But to my current knowledge, we need to select it individually in order to enable the experience that we can now set the URL here.
Cool.
Because if I was to remove this parameter and try again, not sure if this, yeah, now we see this URL here is gone. So we need this parameter in order to enable the binding and passing parameters from one component, or in this case from a page to a component. And we can also set editor required attribute, which now gives me or should give me a warning if I don't set it. Yeah, we see now a warning appeared. If I comment this editor required out again, this warning here will disappear soon. Yeah, now it's gone again. And if I have editor required, it's only so during runtime when we launch this application, the editor required has no impact. But during design time, when we write the application, we get a hint that tells us, hey, you haven't provided a parameter for the URL, but it's required. And we can now set the URL as well by using URL equals to, and now we need to set it to something. All right, so we can't really iterate through the door numbers anymore. We actually need to iterate the doors.
Yeah.
So let's go to the QRlendar service. And well, the simple move would be to just expose this array directly. But I would like to avoid exposing the array directly, because then if we expose this array, some other code could technically then just say, change it to a new instance. And well, because it's a read-only array, somebody else couldn't change it to a different array of a different size. So we will always have the same 24 items array, but the individual items in this array, they could be changed. And I would like to avoid this from a isolation point of view. So what we could expose instead is just something that we can enumerate. So we could return this as an IEnumerable, which enables the for each keyword. So we could say let's make it also another property. So I'm hitting prop again. This will be a read-only property, and it could return an IEnumerable. Now this is generic, which means we can specify our type of this enumerable that we want to return, and it should be an enumerable of door. And we call this doors.
Nice.
This IEnumerable means it's an interface. It doesn't really have any implementation, well, which is no longer true. If C# 8 and upcoming C# 11, they could have implementation, but generally an interface doesn't have too much implementation. So we don't know if behind that enumerable actually is an array, or could be something else as well, which implements this interface. Could be anything. And since array does implement that, we can set it and are good to go. And so we no longer need the number of doors. We actually iterate through the doors now.
Okay.
And we could change this to a for each loop. Have you written a for each loop before?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Would you like to change this to a for each loop in the qrcodes.razor file?
Oh no. Okay, it's easy. It's easy. We're just gonna do here like for each, no?
Almost, yeah. And well, for each loops, perhaps I do a bit of a template here. Okay, no, this is not a comment.
Yes, give me a
HTML comment?
template.
Well, what's the HTML comment? I think that's an HTML comment, right? Yeah. So we have for each, and then we have the type of the variable that we want to of the element. So which would in our case, so which could be, if it was an integer array, it would be int.
Int, yeah. But
then we have a name. I don't know, door, or I call it generally item, and then we have the in keyword. And now we have something that we can iterate through, and this now should be some collection of any form.
Okay, so can I just throw all of this out because it?
Yeah.
Yes. For each, that would be like, I guess, is it now door? Right.
Yes, it is.
But
I'm not sure if autocompletion works here, but
no.
But it is
but
the
it's
door.
with capital, isn't it? Like this.
Yes, because usually in C# you write type names in uppercase or beginning with what's that? Pascal case.
And what is it? Is it where do we have the door? Is in number of doors, or where is it? No, it's in.
It's actually now this doors.
In for each door and doors. Yes.
Yes.
So that's it. Fabulous. Yay! Done.
We still need
Damn it!
So here we have the type. We also need a name, a variable name, in order to refer to this element. So we could just call it like lowercase 4.
Pardon?
Door, I mean. So we still need so we still need basically the item name that we then refer to within the loop.
Oh yes. Oh, door.
Yeah, and now we should be
door. No.
door. Yeah,
Like
and now we should be able to replace. So because we no longer have this I here, we should now be able to replace this with the properties of the door that we have below. So we could now within the loop. Within the scope of the loop here, we now have this door variable in scope, so we can refer to that item of the current iteration, which will be called 24 times, and we can refer to the number and the URL property of this instance now.
Okay. So no, I don't get it. What? Sorry, can you repeat that?
So we no longer, because what we had before is a for loop where we had the I variable.
Yes.
We no longer have the I variable. We now have the door variable.
Yeah.
And we want to pass the door number and the URL to this component. But we don't have them directly. They are members.
Door numbers.
They're instance members of this door. Yeah.
Door dot. Yeah. Number like this. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't get the
autocompletion.
Autocompletion.
Yeah, that
so
makes it
that's
hard.
why it's a little bit difficult. Well, it's okay. I've got you. You're my autocompletion. And the URL is at door.url, right?
Yeah.
That
this looks
sense.
good. It's actually, I wonder if I have autocompletion. I have
No.
it neither. Yeah, I can't do anything for autocompletion.
Fair enough.
So I hope this. We don't get any highlighting here, but it should work. Yeah. So we now go through each and every item of this door collection. We start at the beginning, so number 1, number 2. Well, unless we shuffle it, and then at the end have should pass the URL and the number to it. So let's find out what will happen. There were build errors.
Oof, what happened?
The name doors does not exist in the current context. Okay, this doesn't work.
Okay.
I may be writing. I thought this works in Blazor. Well, maybe we don't have.
Can we just have a using AdventQRlendar services?
I guess we need a using. You're right. Exactly. Yeah. So because we didn't, because we have our door type is in the namespace AdventQRlendar.services, but we haven't imported this type yet. Yeah. Which we do via the using declaration. Now it is in scope, and now we can refer to it. Okay, let's try again. Damn it.
Damn it.
The name doors does not exist in the current context. Yes. Yes, doors here. All right. This doors doesn't work because if we go to the code behind, which I put down there, we have no doors property. However, we do have the QRlendar property, which now in return holds the doors property. So we need one more indirection.
Like, is it like QRlendar.doors or something?
Exactly. Yes.
Dot. No.
Doors.
Like this?
Yeah. This
Doesn't work.
should, because we now refer to the QRlendar service that we inject and grab the doors property out of that. And now it builds. Woo.
Oh, cool.
And let's see what's happening. I believe I forgot something to set up. Yeah, we have an unhandled exception. I guess we will end up having a null reference exception. Object reference not set to an instance of the object. Yes, because I made a big mistake. I haven't initialized the array. So if you go to the calendar service, I did initialize the array with 24 items, but all of the items are null because we haven't initialized the door yet, the door instances. So what we have, perhaps we can debug. If I set a breakpoint here, what we will see is, because if we create an array, each and every element is created with the default value. And since door is, the door that we have here is a class, which is a reference type, the default is null. And if we bring up the watch, we see we do have 24 items from index 0 to 23, but all of them are null. And now we try to dereference a null. So we get here, this is now a null instance, and we try to access the number property of a null instance, which doesn't work. So what I did forget is to initialize these. Yeah.
Okay.
What we could do is, like, do it manually. We could say like manually new door, comma, new door, no door, no door, and initialize them with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this would be quite tedious. There is a bit of a short, sorry. Go away, yes. A shorter way to do this. So we could use link for that. We could say enumerable dot range. We did this previously with the random already, so we will be soon replacing some code where we can say, I want to start at 1. I want to go until 24, or the length, the count is 24. And then select per element, where we can get a hold of the index, a new door. And we pass to the door constructor this index. And then we to-array this thing in order, because we wanted an array. So what this does is, actually, let's dissect this. So we actually chain 3 calls here. We have the range, we have the select, we have the to-array. This is called link in .NET. So we first create a range. If I evaluate this, it's unable to evaluate. Okay, so what this would create is, and it doesn't create an array, but it creates a promise basically to create a range of integers starting from 1 with the count of 24. So we will have from 1 to 24. And then the select is called for each of these, where we pass in the index, which is that the index, or is that I hope that's the number, not the index, which should be 1. Perhaps if it's the index, we need to +1 it.
Yeah.
So where we pass in the number and then create a new door instance out of it. So we basically convert the integer to a door, and then we still have no array because it's basically just a promise to create this, and then we materialize this promise that we have this set of items into an array. And let's see if I made an off by one error. No, okay. So with the I that we get is actually the number here.
Yeah.
And we now have 1, 2, 24.
Woo.
And if we, let's see if that, okay, if we now write something in there, we don't have the code yet to actually write it into the door array. So if we navigate, we still don't have it yet. And I guess that's the last part missing. If we now go to the QR codes page. No. Sorry, that's the component. Our QR code component. We do have, when we change the URL, we already set up a callback. So whenever we change the URL, this method is invoked. And let's also write that. Okay, but do we know which item now to write that in? Well, we can write it to the URL. What we're missing now is a... Let's jump to the containing QR codes page. Put them on the bottom. So what we're missing now is we have here the door, but we don't pass the door actually. We pass values of that door. So now this service or this component doesn't know the actual door anymore. So what we could do is change this, we actually pass the door to it, and then since the component now has a reference to this door, it can actually change the door. So I will be changing door number to just a door. Remove the URL. Just say door here. This is the type door. And now, so we get warnings now because we actually need to pass just the door. I will say, okay, we passed the door, remove everything else. Oops, go away. Yes. And now we need to fix some code because we don't have the door. Let's jump to the view because we do say door number and URL here. They don't exist anymore. So we now need to indirectly say, okay, this is door number. Or is it just number? Did we just call it number? Door.number and door.url. Autocompletion doesn't help. I hope this works though. And then we could set door.url to the URL that we pass in here, which is this value. So I will put this into a variable. Let's call this a string URL. Well, it's currently not really a URL. It is just some text.
Yeah.
And use that text. Use that text to create the QR code, but also to store it back into the door. And let's see. Let's see what we have. QR codes, if I enter something and navigate back and back to it, it's broken.
Yay! So now it deletes everything, not just the text within the field, but like everything. So that's good.
Well, we do
okay.
have an unhandled error here.
Okay.
Let's have a look what that is. Unhandled exception, failed to execute set attribute. Value is not a valid attribute or name. Okay, I believe I'm missing Solution Explorer, something in the Razor.
I'm not, yeah. Is it really door.number? I'm kind of also suspicious about that when you said that the first time.
Let's have a look. It should be, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, fair enough.
What are we doing wrong? We do set the URL, okay. We do get the door. Maybe we have a bit of a timing issue.
Okay, how come?
Because no, but it works on the first try. I don't get it. So the first render, but if we navigate back and to it again, it breaks. I don't get it.
Do we? Okay. URL text. Can we bug it somehow, or do you know where would you put?
I'm not sure where it breaks, but let's have a look.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the
If any of our viewers spotted anything, do let us know.
Ooh, we get an error already.
Already,
okay,
yeah.
Okay. So when we say, okay. Unhandled exception rendering component failed to execute set attribute. Is it because of the JavaScript that we have in place? No. Maybe it's the setting part that is. Because if I comment this code out, maybe that's bad. If we set the property, maybe we shouldn't set the property directly. Because maybe there's some data binding going on that yeah. No, it doesn't break anymore. Maybe there's some data binding going on with that property. So I'll briefly change this to a method. So rather than I'll make this, I'll make the setter private. Or actually, let's remove the setter. No, but then it's read only. Now we kind of need the setter.
Yeah.
But not set it directly, but have a method set URL, or let's call it change URL, where we pass in string URL and set the URL to that. And now we can't set it directly anymore, but we could call change URL. But we do still change the underlying property. Yeah, that still breaks. Maybe I shouldn't set the property directly. Okay, perhaps we do change this now to a full property. Prop full. Call this. Oops. Change this to a string. Call this URL and URL. Oops, should be uppercase. Make the setter private. Actually, remove the setter entirely. And now change the field behind it. So we no longer change the property directly, but only the underlying field, the backing field, I think it's called, that this property is getting when it's invoked. And then we set the underlying field and no longer the property, which now should circumvent the data binding and cost issue. I'm not entirely sure about the data binding issue here, but this still doesn't work. Damn it. Blazor seems very smart about data binding. Maybe we need to disable this somehow, but I don't know how. Yeah.
I still
sure.
don't quite understand the error. So we kind of struggling to save the text that we put into the text fields. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I get maybe it's because of re-rendering after because Blazor does automatic data binding, and well, we bind to the URL here. I think this means that if the URL changes, this will also be updated. But no. Well, no, hold on. I removed the setter. So I guess the problem is that this URL is no longer settable, but we do bind to that. I guess we need the setter here. No, this needs to be a mutable property. This needs to be like I revert that. A settable property. But then we still have the issue. So we do get the, I'm actually not sure, set attribute on element is not a valid attribute name. I don't think we really have this in our code. So this is, I'm using Blazor here wrong somehow. Well, perhaps if we find Blazor value binding property mutable. Okay, I guess I need to do some research on that. But let's try in the last minutes. Let's try to get the rest somehow working, and then we just need to connect the dots. So if we would go ahead and go to our QRlendar service, and let's just let's create a second constructor. Just for now, we will remove this later on.
Yes.
Which also takes an URL. I think there should be a code completion for that to initialize the property URL. So it does that automatically.
Nice.
And now we also say i.toString because for the fun of it. So we will also use the number that we get in as a string. So the first door will have 1 as QR code, and the second door has 2 as QR code, and so on. Let's assume this is our state that we set. And if we go to the QRlendar page, we still set up this because this is what we actually now replace the previous code with. So in here we should also inject prop, create another property, inject the QRlendar service. Guess I'm missing the namespace. Oh, so no, I'm using the, it's a type of course and not the name, and we call it QRlendar. And oops, it's already called QRlendar. Let's call it service. And now when we initialize, those numbers are no longer, well, we actually have two. Okay, we have two actually. So we have the numbers and the URLs. And we initialize the numbers by grabbing the QRlendar service.
Okay.
Getting all the doors and selecting, since the door is a combination of a number and a URL, we only select the number of the door. So let's get the number here. And it's an array, so let's array it. And I duplicate this line. For the URLs, we just change to URL and select the URL. Now we have two collections, the numbers and the URLs. And in the page, we now could again change. Okay. We wanted to have the rows and the columns. Okay, I guess there will be some work here to change that because in one view we really have just a one-dimensional thing. Here we have a two-dimensional thing, so we need a different representation of how to display the collection here. Okay, we may not be able to finish this today, I'm afraid.
That's okay. We wanted to sort of rework the grid anyway.
Yeah, we need to rework
so that might be a really good opportunity to do it. So I think what we said is we wanted them to have like the doors to be sort of slightly like mingled about, so it's not like a perfect grid. But we could do that next time, and then we could maybe iterate over. So we have a grid, and then we have the doors somewhere within each box, kind of, and then maybe when we do that, we can also just decide to sort of show them in a bit of a different way that makes it easier for QR codes to fill them with our QR codes and with everything.
Yep.
But yeah, we have to have a look at that, I guess, because I literally just even sort of like saying it, like summarizing it just now, I just opened so many questions. So that will require a little bit of research. That's okay.
I'll try to figure out what I'm doing more of the data binding. But what we did achieve is we now have a service somewhere which holds the data, or which eventually holds then the data, the door numbers and the QR codes, or the UL that the user has entered in the other page. And then when we complete this step next time, then we can freely switch between them and have persistence.
Yeah, that would be important.
And definitely get rid of the error.
Yeah. True. Cool. But still, we got a lot done, and learned a thing or two. I did some live coding again, which always makes me very proud.
I was just about to say, actually, because you said in the beginning you're here to learn. Obviously, I'm here to learn too. Yes. Yes.
And hopefully everyone who watched it had the opportunity to learn a thing or two as well, no matter your skill level. And yeah, just I guess to mention it here as well, our next session won't be right in a week's time. It will be actually on the Monday, what is it, 14th?
Was it the 14th?
Yes, I think so. At
1800 UTC, I believe, right?
UTC, yeah.
Because I will be in Prague next Saturday, yeah.
What are you doing in Prague? Anything?
At the Update conference in Prague,
Oof.
I'll be giving a talk on source generators in .NET.
Oh, great! Is that also streamed? So can we watch it from?
I don't think so. No. I think the
Okay.
videos of the Update conference are later on. Oops, Update conference Prague. Released later on YouTube, but I don't think they are streamed live.
How many videos are there? Are there like 24? Because then we can put it in our.
Are there 24? Let's have a look at the schedule. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then we have day 2. It's actually more.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
we
at
can
least, so we could have
the
a collection
best.
of...
of the best talks of that conference in a QRlendar for anybody who's interested. That would be maybe really fun to like give it to the members, like everybody who spoke and maybe wasn't able to see all the others.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do we get it done until next
No.
week? Yeah, I thought that too.
But we will get it done until December. That was the commitment. That was a promise that we made. There will
Yes.
be a version of the QRlendar by the 1st of December, so you can start opening your drawers then, and then we might have some refactoring sessions and maybe some testing sessions, because I think I mentioned it in the first episode, but I work as a software tester actually, so maybe we can write some tests on our code as well at some point.
Ooh, yeah, we should.
But we'll see.
And then to enable future refactorings. Yeah. So we
Ooh.
won't break anything. Maybe this is gonna be a yearly thing. No, let's see. Okay.
Oh, that would be great. That would be really cool, because then next year we can just focus on refactor and we have all the basics done. Right?
I'm looking
We'll
at the
see.
calendar. Friesen6, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, says, "Hello, lovely people." Well, it's very lovely of you to say hello back.
Cool. So thanks again for watching. I think we're at the end of our session today.
And we'll be back on Monday the 14th. Goodbye.
Goodbye.